This episode contains discussions surrounding mental health. If at any point during the episode you or someone you know is in need of support, call 988 or visit iasp.info for help. Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Make Mental podcast, well into season 3 at this point, and I'm excited to bring yet another exciting guest to the podcast, Brynn Wopperer. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I guess I'll just be upfront. Off camera, we were trying to decide if we should tell you Brynn's relation to me or not. But I think it adds a cool dynamic to the episode, so we will let you guys in on a secret. Brynn is my cousin. My dad and her mom are brother and sister. Yeah, we were really debating, and it was like, well, do we do it? Do we not tell? But I think it will add a different layer to the episode because there's some things about myself that Brynn doesn't necessarily know. There's some things about Brynn that I might not necessarily know and find out this episode, and on like a familial level, that's pretty cool. But Brynn was and probably still is an athlete, but just not at the collegiate level anymore. She was a lot better than I was in her sport. She was a national champion for Norwich hockey program. One thing we do have in common, though, is we are both Scholar All-Americans, so we're both pretty nerdy in that aspect. But she finished her career, I think, with 14 goals and 27 assists. Is that right?
I don't know that stat, honestly. Thank you.
Well, it's pretty close. It might be one off in either direction, but still.
That's okay.
That's not the focus of the episode, though. I just like to put that out there to show people what our ex-athletes, I guess now both of us, have accomplished in the past. But I have wanted Brynn to come on for a while because of a few reasons. One, her job. She's a traveling nurse, and forgive me if that's not the technical title, but that's just the easiest way to say it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
Yep, she's a traveling nurse. She's had, she's battled a lot of physical injuries in hockey. She brings a female perspective to the podcast, which a lot of times we don't necessarily get. And when we do, they're older females. I'm not going to say old. I'm not going to crap on all of our past guests. They're just not as young as Brynn. So that would be a cool aspect. And then, like I said, again, a lot of my friends and family listen to this, so it was kind of fun to finally invite one of them on. So one last time, thank you, Brynn, for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here, and it's so fun that we're cousins, and we get to dig deeper on this level that we don't necessarily talk about like this or about this type of stuff, so it's fun.
Yeah, no, we usually sit around at like Thanksgiving or Christmas and just make fun of each other. All of us.
Yeah.
So it'll be fun to have the flip side. Maybe laugh at grandpa or grandma every once in a while. But I think
literally.
You missed it this year. So
I know.
I had some extra beef jerky and all that. But
no, I'm so jealous. That is my favorite thing ever is the beef jerky. I steal everybody in my family. If they leave it out, I take it.
Yeah, that's why I eat mine before we even get home, so that way no one can eat it on me.
I try to savor it. It's so good.
Maybe a little lack of self-control there, but if someone's going to eat it, it's going to be me.
That's good.
But yeah, I'm curious as to your thoughts on mental health as a whole. And there's really no right or wrong answer. I'm just curious as to like, is it something you've always been in tune with? Is it something you got more in tune with when you left college, after college? When was mental health, I'm not going to say a big thing for you, but when were you made aware of it?
I feel like I've always been kind of aware of it and the aspect of it, but like obviously like being in nursing school is you start to get more, you like learn more about it, although I still think we should be learning like way more as nurses, but like you start to become more aware and like especially the way that you interact with people as a nurse. I feel like you have to be aware of like, what's going on with people mentally. But my senior year of college, I actually, which I don't really remember too much about it now, but like I um did my like project, like my big capstone project on mental health in children. And also my senior year of college, I started going to therapy. So like I feel like that was definitely like my big like mental health moment where I was always like maybe carefree as a kid, like I'm just like out here playing hockey, like living my life. But then, which I feel like it's common your senior year, you're like, I'm getting out into the world. I need to like get myself together. And I feel like that's for me when I had my own like personal, maybe like journey, beginning of my journey with mental health. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's exciting. I think, well, first of all, thank you for sharing that you openly went to therapy. I think that's a start in itself when we
Mhm.
talk about mental health, is just saying like it's normal. Like it should get to the
Mhm.
point where I don't have to thank guests for
Yeah.
sharing, but we're not there yet. So I'm still going to point it out
Yeah.
and let people know that it's okay to share.
Sure.
Um, but I think that's pretty neat that you can not necessarily pinpoint it back to like a date and time, like some people can, but just kind of your senior year, the feeling of school was changing. You were realizing that this chapter of your life was coming to an end. It might have provoked some feelings, some confusion, uncertainty. I mean, all those things that you go through from senior year of high school into college present themselves again from college into to the real world, except a lot of times, whether you go to college or not, you have a plan post high school. You either enter the workforce, you take a gap year, you go to college. Well, for a lot of us, when we leave college, we're just kind of like, what's next? I mean, we talk about it in athletics.
Yeah, it's crazy.
A lot of us play from the time we're 4 until we're 24 when we leave college. Like, well, we've also been
Right.
going to school that whole time. So whether you're an athlete or not, it's like you've been having the same consistent routine or parts of your day over and over again, and then you just wake up, wear a cap and gown, and then that routine's not there anymore, really. Um,
It's crazy. Mhm.
but you obviously had those feelings before you graduated. A lot of my friends have had those feelings since graduation, uncertainty.
Mhm.
What, if you're okay with sharing a little bit more, what prompted you to choose therapy as a tool for your mental health?
Yeah, I do not mind sharing. Well, so honestly, my one of my biggest reasons is because I was going through a breakup at the time with somebody. I don't know if you ever met him, but not a good relationship. um, so I was like I was a senior. It was like my first week senior year when I started going, and I had just gone through this breakup, and it was like dramatic, nothing too crazy, but there was a lot going on and things that I was like, I need to sort this out, and I basically started going like right before I had this like pretty like a little bit dramatic breakup. And then like my therapist, I just like loved her. She was amazing. It was through college, and so it was free. She was so awesome. And I kind of needed help like sorting through that breakup and like getting over that. And then I was kind of like, I'm not going to stop. I love it. I love going to therapy every week. And also, like my three best friends in the world were as well going to therapy. So like we were all just like starting it together and like kind of dealing with all the, things you deal with as a girl in college and being in your senior year. So I don't know, it's kind of like it's a fun thing. And it was also like, I was like, this is incredibly helpful. I'm like learning so much about myself and about the way I grew up and like, and going through this breakup. I was just like, this is awesome. I'm never going to stop.
Never gonna stop breaking
But then
up or
I,
stop
I
going to
just did stop
therapy?
actually at the end. Both. No, I'm just kidding. You can't put that in.
um, I mean, it might
You
stay
can't
at
put
this
that
point. Well,
in.
no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. We'll cut it.
No,
But
you honestly can, but
um,
I did just go through another breakup again, so
oh, you did. I'm so sorry. I did not. Do you
no,
want to
it's fine.
unpack
I'm doing
that right
great.
now? No, I'm kidding. We don't have to unpack that. I want to focus on the fact that you
I
put
know.
therapy and fun in the same sentence. I think
Yeah.
that is huge in itself. A lot of times therapy is scary, and it should be, right? Not
Yes.
to the point
It
where you
is.
never
It's super
go, but it's
scary.
like I
Yeah.
found, I mean, there's a couple things I want to unpack in what you said. The first is therapy and fun in the same sentence. You didn't, it wasn't group therapy, correct? You went to separate therapy
No,
sessions
we
and
went
then you just,
individually. Yeah.
okay. Um,
But then, like, at the
that's a
end of the
cool
week, we were always
aspect.
like, we're so much better.
Yeah, maybe a little. I always wonder because I had a couple friends who went to therapy as well as me during college, and it honestly opened up a whole nother trust level with those people for me because
Yeah.
I knew that they were telling their therapist some stuff about, and I knew I was not like the problem, but I know like if you live with someone for 5 years, you're gonna get on their nerves. Like I knew they vented to their therapist about me as I did them, but it just opened up like, why don't I just tell them? Like, why don't I just address what I'm talking with my therapist with them?
hmm
Because they know I'm going to better myself. They know they're going to better themselves. Like, it just opened up a whole new trust level. Did you find that with your friends, or were you guys close the entire time?
Um, yeah, I never lived with any of my best friends in college. So I feel like, I don't know, I'm also like honestly I'm a pretty direct communicator. Like if I have a problem, I will probably just like address it right with you. I won't like, you know, but I did feel like I mean, it was like my best friends that were also just going, some of them seeing the same therapist. So I feel like for us, it more so, I was just like, we are all out here learning more about ourselves at the young age of 21 or 22, however old we were. And like we're all just like kind of having more like these discussions. I don't know. I just feel like we were all becoming better kind of together, separately but together.
Go Global is a free flowing technology company that handcrafts, embellishes, and manufactures garments and accessories. Designed on the principles of people, places, and possibilities, Go Global reimagines fashion and is inspired by you, the people of the world. Yeah, maybe deeper conversations arise, not to the
Yeah,
point of like,
definitely. Hmm.
not like epiphany every second, but no more superficial conversations like you can have with your best friends, like the drama or the gossip or whatever. And yes, guys have it too.
Yeah,
It's not just pigeonholed
totally.
to girls. We all have our gossip.
Hmm.
But um
Totally.
I kind of want to transition to the second point of your therapy journey, I guess, if we'll call it that. You said you went in primarily for a breakup, but I feel like a lot of times people go in for one reason and stay for others.
Totally.
Is that, was that the case for you? And if it was,
Yeah.
what did you learn about yourself that you would not have learned otherwise if you hadn't gone? Like yes, the breakup might have been that target point
Hmm.
that was like, I need to go to therapy for X, Y, and Z. But when you're there, you just do so much more unpacking, like you said, that
Hmm.
it's not that you become reliant on therapy, but you become so much more curious and self-aware that you want to go back.
Yeah. I feel like obviously it was not all about my breakup because, you know, that was, I mean, that's not like a thing ongoing. I wasn't necessarily out here like it was kind of like, okay, we fixed it, moving on, because I broke up with him. But I feel like I was very interested in honestly my like growing up and my family and just like kind of like my parents and the way that they are, which they're wonderful people. They're like two of my best friends. I talk to them all the time. I literally just talked to my mom right before I jumped on this. But I think like it started opening up like an idea of thinking about how like probably like the things I say, the way I am has things to do with like how we are raised and just like I feel like I kind of understood my parents more and like it just gave me like more respect and more like different tools to like communicate with them and then also like I feel like different tools to communicate with other people as well and like trying to be a better communicator like more because also when I was a senior I was the captain of my hockey team so like I was always trying to figure out how are we gonna like have this like tough conversation without being like you know escalating it or like saying things that are hard to say. So I don't know. I feel like yeah, like learning about my family and like communication.
Yeah, that's interesting because I think those they go hand in hand. I mean, whether you're the captain of your sports team or the boss or the manager, whatever, insert a title with some level of authority. Well, you're a leader to someone, even if you're not those titles, right? You could just, I mean, you're an older sister, so you're a leader to your two younger brothers. I mean, I am the youngest in my family, but I'm still a leader to my younger cousins, to other friends. Like you never know who is watching you and looking up to you. So communication and how you carry yourself is always key. I I did find myself in therapy for some of those reasons as well. Obviously, in another episode we talk about what I call like my aha moment, like my rock bottom, my breaking point, if you will, of why I went. But that's not why I ended up staying, which is what I was hinting to earlier, which is crazy. Like you and I think that's important too for people to know. And I know we're going off on like a little therapy session here in itself, but it's like you can go in hoping to get one thing out of it and leave getting what you need or you needed that you didn't even know. And I think that's what's so beautiful about therapy is a tool for your mental health. I mean, it's not for everybody. And sometimes it is you need a problem solved, you go in and you leave. But I shouldn't say every, I'd say probably like 85-90% of people that I know personally that went to therapy just stayed for an extended period of time, not forever, because it's meant to be a crutch, right? It's not like you break your leg, you'll use your crutches for 3 weeks till you can walk on your own. That's therapy. You go, you figure out what you need till you can walk on your own. You might stumble and fall again and go back. But I know the majority of people that I personally know went for one reason, like they went for a specific reason and stayed for a reason that was not that. And I think that's also interesting because there's so much to each person that we can't know it all. So going to therapy just helps us get a little bit closer to knowing ourselves and really becoming friends with ourselves because
Yeah.
I mean you can become friends with people, but it's you got to live with yourself every day. You can't just
Mhm.
hey, I don't want to see my buddy. I'm leaving the house. Like no, you go with yourself everywhere. So you got to
That's so
understand
true.
yourself.
You have to like yourself.
Well,
That's so true.
you have to love yourself. You don't always have to
Love
like yourself.
yourself. Okay, that's good.
That's
I
what I
like
say.
that.
Because like
Mhm.
there are things that I do or have done or continue to do that I don't necessarily like, but as long as I can give myself forgiveness, trust myself, and love myself, like that's what my motto is, kind of. Because there are
Yeah.
times where
I'm all,
I really don't like me, but I always love me.
I love that. I know. I'm always like in situations like my new thing is like I'm trying to give myself grace. Like if I didn't handle that well or something went awry, I'm like, just give yourself grace. That's okay.
Yeah,
Move on.
I said that at a speech. I was doing a speech for the Francis House a few weeks ago, talking to the youth auxiliary there. They take care of terminally ill patients, like 6 to 12 months left to live. They volunteer and like write them letters
Oh,
and learn more
cool.
through religion. And I was speaking to them, and
Awesome.
I said to give yourself or become friends with Grace, and they all just kind of looked around, like looking for someone named Grace because they're 12 to 18. They didn't necessarily know, and they're like, "There's
Aw.
no Grace here." Like I could see it.
I
Like they
don't
all knew there was
know.
no Grace. They're like, "Who's
I don't
Grace?"
know who
And
that
then
is.
I had to go on and explain like self forgiveness. That was such a cool memory for me though, because it's like if we can introduce this concept to ourselves at a younger age, that now I'm not gonna say we'd be in a better place in life because that you can't really go back and figure that out. But we might not have been as stressed, or we might have understood things differently, seen it through a different lens. But I'm glad you brought up the point of grace because that just brought up a little happy memory for me that I almost forgot about.
Oh, good. I love
Um,
that.
a little hard transition. Why traveling nurse?
Um, I always wanted to do travel nursing, and um, I love to travel. I don't know. You probably know. I Traveling is like one of my favorite things in the entire world. Um, and I
Italy was the most recent really long trip, right?
well, I went to Nepal in October
Oh, I did not know about that one.
in Asia. Yeah. I went to
Not for
I was
nursing,
like,
just for travel?
no, I went on a trip. Yeah, like kind of like a little group trip to Nepal. And it was incredibly like spiritual. I mean, and I did like a trek among like in the valley of the Himalayas, like not no, I didn't like hike any of the Himalayas, obviously, but it was pretty unreal because, you know, Nepal's a very spiritual country. They practice like Hinduism, Buddhism, like both mixed together. And we did a lot of like yoga, meditation, and then we went and hiked among, you know, the highest mountain range in the world. So it was actually an incredibly spiritual trip. But yeah, that was my most recent international endeavor.
I did not know about that one. I feel
Yeah,
like
it was
every time I go to
awesome.
visit grandma, she's like, "Oh, Bryn's here in the world," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, I'm in Oswego."
You're
Like,
like,
whoopie doo.
I know when I tell grandma my trips, she's like, "You are so busy."
She's like,
um,
"I went to fill up gas today,"
oh
but
my
she's so
god,
sweet.
so sweet. I love her. She's so funny. Um, but yeah, I lived in Burlington, Vermont after I graduated, which is like an hour where I went to college, and I lived there for 2 years, and it was so fun. I loved living in Vermont, but I was like, 2 years, I'm ready to move on. Like how old was I? 23 or 24? I was 24. It was last year, and I was like, it's time for a change. So I went and did a travel contract in Dallas, and then this is my second one in North Carolina. And I just feel like it's a very cool way to see the country, like figure out where I might want to live, and also, honestly, it's really nice to be like removed from the hospital. Like I just go into work, take care of my patients. Like I don't have to worry about anything going on. You know what I mean? Like I'm just like there for a couple months. I don't have to like get in any drama, and then I just like leave and go home. So it's been very fun.
Empire Specialty Printing is a family owned and operated screen printing and promotional products company. ESP has been in business for over a decade by providing consistent and high quality service. Products include custom hoodies, shirts, hats, business supplies, and much, much more. Whether it's for a family party, school team, group, or corporate apparel, Empire Specialty Printing has what you need to get the ball rolling.
Do you go to a doctor's office? Do you do house visits? How does that work? Because I
No,
think
I work
there's
in a
different levels
hospital.
to travel nursing, right?
Yeah, like I feel like the like typically it's a hospital because that's where they need the
Okay.
most help. So I work like I did neuro, and right now I'm working in orthopedics and trauma in North Carolina. So just like hospital floor, like where you would
Interesting.
go if you yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's actually kind of interesting in itself because you meet so many people on both a patient level but also like a coworker level. Are you able to stay
Mhm.
friends with everyone you meet? Like how do you
Um
like I'm not going to I guess I'll just ask. I'm assuming you're not a lonely person. Like you have friends. But how does
mhm.
that work when you're only with a group of people for 2 years and then moving on? It reminds me of like a military type
Yeah, I
life.
mean, I was in Dallas for 6 months and I made some really awesome friends that I like still keep in touch with some of them. And well, like one of them now lives in South Carolina, so we live like 3 hours apart. So like I feel like I feel like a lot of my friends are honestly moving anyway. So like I have a lot of long distance friends. Um but like also at work, I'm not necessarily out here like making amazing friends. Honestly, at my job right now, I am not very supported at work. But that's the beauty in travel nursing because I'm only here for 4 months, and at the end of March, I'm done with my contract. Um, but
Hmm.
yeah, and also right now where I live, my one of my best friends, two of my best friends live in the same town because she's also doing a travel contract.
Do you guys like plan that? Like, oh, where are you going next? Let's end up in the same
Yeah,
spot.
well, I know it was kind of like she started her job, and then I was like applying to jobs in North Carolina, and then I got this job, so I was like, perfect. We're gonna be living near each other, and it's amazing.
Well, I think that's so cool, whether you did it on purpose or not, that you combined your passion with your work.
Yeah,
You love
totally,
to travel, and you also want to be a nurse. So why settle for one or the other? Did that happen on
exactly.
purpose, or did it kind of just fall into place?
Yeah, I mean, no, I definitely was like, I'm gonna do travel nursing so that I can see the country, and also when you do travel nursing, like you do a contract and then you're like in between contracts, you can take time off. So it's like kind of awesome for somebody who wants to travel because Like at the end of my contract, I'm taking April off, and I'm just like traveling in
Hmm.
April.
I
So
wish, I wish, right? No, that's exciting
I
though.
know,
I
I know it's
envy
really
people
fun.
who have figured out how to combine their passions with their work. But then again, I have to give myself some grace because there's no instruction manual. This is how you're supposed to work. Like my passion and my work will fall into place when they're supposed to. But I want to talk a little bit about like what you've learned maybe from the patients that you've taken care of, because obviously when you're in a hospital, there's a lot physically and mentally that goes on. It's taxing to the patients. It's taxing to the nurses and doctors and surgeons. And I mean, the list could go on and on. But is there like a couple moments you remember vividly where you're just like, man, like this this patient taught me so much about life? Or is there a moment that stands out to you?
Um, is there a moment? I feel like I have moments like almost every day that I work. Um, like it's very interesting and eye-opening to be a nurse, like as a nurse in Vermont, in Texas, and now North Carolina. So it's very interesting to experience the like or see the human experience that's happening like in different parts of the country. And it's a little bit shocking, like seeing the way that other people live, and like even if it's just the culture of like somebody living in Texas is just so different than like how I grew up. So I feel like I don't know if there's like I mean there's like so many moments where people, like a lot of my patients are homeless, right? So like we can't just like discharge them when they leave the hospital to like go, or like say, so like a lot of my patients, like they are in the hospital because they don't have money for medication, or like especially like insulin is very expensive for diabetics. Like people, if people can't afford insulin, the like when you don't treat your diabetes, like you could end up getting like a foot amputation. Like it's very serious. So I just feel like experiencing the experiences of other humans is like very, it just like puts your world into a perspective. And it's also just like on, even though I'm like having a hard day at work, like dealing with like either somebody that's being very rude or like somebody that's very sick, I'm always just like, these people are going through it, and like that's my job, is to like care for them and like help them. And even if I don't have the time to listen to somebody, I feel like as I grow older and like are in my nursing practice longer, I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like that person's, I can wait. I can like hear your story. So I feel like it's just makes me more like understanding and accepting, and yeah, understanding and accepting of people.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think, I don't know, I was listening to a podcast on the way home from work today, and they said even the muddiest water reflects the light of the sun. And I think that's kind of like what you realize in the unfortunate situation of the homeless patients or the patients who aren't as financially stable. Like they're coming in to get help. And in this instance, at least my brain kind of says a abstract quote and then tries to rationalize it. That's just what my brain does. But like in this instance, and against nothing against these unfortunate circumstances and these people, but the patients that come in to see you are obviously in the mud. They're the murky water. They need help, but there is light, and there is light inside them. And I think it's so easy. It would be so easy in your job, but it's so easy for everyone just to go about their day worrying about themselves, only them, like me. Okay, to a certain extent, that's fine. Like you have to take care and love yourself first, so then you can get to a spot to do it. But if you don't take the time to recognize what's going on around you, who the people are around you, who the people are that you want around you, then it's so easy to become that murky water and forget that you reflect light. I don't know if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense in any way, shape, or form, but
No, I
that's just
like
what my
it.
head made of the quote. And I always love it when something I hear like can be inserted directly into the podcast. It's kind of like a nerdy moment for me. But
No, I love
how
it.
do
It's
you
like,
how go ahead?
no, I was gonna say it's like the lotus flower that grows in the muddy water and like the swamp. It's the same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I
yeah,
never thought about that, but I can now.
yeah.
Um, how do you take care of yourself when you are surrounded with a lot of misfortune or just confusion, loss, sadness.
Hmm. Yeah, it's so important to take care of yourself, especially being a nurse or like being somebody like honestly in any profession, but like just speaking from experience in healthcare because you like are giving so much of yourself sometimes. Um, I, as being a former athlete, try to stay very active. I do a lot of yoga. I try to meditate. I would try to work on meditation. It's hard. But I do a lot of journaling too. Like honestly, like especially in the past year, I would say I have found so much like if I'm going through something, like I just need to journal and things become a lot more clear for me. And I try to just like, I don't know, be outside and like exercise and I like I know like if I'm have to do something I don't want to do, like I'll go on a walk or like, do go to a yoga class the next day if I'm like having a hard time. And that's honestly how, you know.
Are you intentional about that? Like, do you notice yourself getting more irritable, tired, run
Mhm.
down, and then react to it? Or do you say, hey, I need to take care of myself. This is me time?
No, I would say I'm pretty intentional. Like actually recently, like specifically living here, I wasn't living in this current place I'm in. I was in another place that was like not that whatever. But I was like woke up feeling so terrible and I was like instead of sitting here or like turning on the TV, like turning on Netflix show, which also nothing against that either. I was like I'm going to go walk like however far it is, like go to my like walk to spin class. I'm gonna go to spin, and like it was a beautiful sunny day. I walked back, and I was like, I'm so much better. Like rather than like wallowing and like getting into a deeper hole, like I need to like go out and like move and like get outside. But I'm also like when I'm at work, like I'll plan out like the days I'm gonna go to yoga, and I'm like, this is what like if I'm having a hard shift, like I'm gonna go to yoga this day, and then I'll like try to get ahead of it.
Need a tow? Top Shot Transport is the place to go. From cars to machinery, heavy equipment to general freight, Top Shot Transport will give you the best rate. Top Shot Transport is fully licensed and ready to tow your stuff anywhere. Email topshottransport1@gmail.com for more information.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think I smiled in the middle of that because I go back to the becoming friends with yourself that we talked about earlier. It's like the more you are intentional about self-care and specifically your mental health. I mean, yes, your physical health and your mental health, obviously a clear connection. But when when you're intentional about both, we'll say, you learn more, right? Like there are moments where you need popcorn and Netflix. Like those moments are real and they exist. But then there's also the opposite moment, like where you need to go to the gym, you need a little bit of physical movement, you need reading, maybe you need sleep. Like you have to give yourself that grace period, again, to use your word, of learning what you like. Because when you don't just become friends with someone, very rarely, like the second you meet them. I mean, you feel them out, you learn about their likes, you learn about their dislikes, and usually you're more attracted to people of the same interest. Obviously, if you're an athlete, you have built in friends because you all usually share the same interests with the same sport. Um, but my point is, like, you have to do that with yourself too, because I don't know. Like, do I like going to the gym? Well, if I've never been, I can't say I don't like going to the gym. Do I like Netflix and popcorn? I never met someone who doesn't, but you never know. Then you go to that next step. Okay, I like the gym and I like Netflix and popcorn. I don't know why that's funny to me, but when are these things best for me? Too much time at the gym is not healthy. Too much time with Netflix and popcorn has is not healthy. You the more you do these things, the more you practice gym and Netflix and popcorn. Last time I'll say it, I swear. Um, the more
Important things.
you'll know what you need for your mental and physical well-being. Is there
Yeah.
something that you've done where you're just like, man, I thought that was going to help me, and absolutely not. I'm never doing that again.
Um, I don't know. A lot of things. No,
Well,
I
could
hate
you pick one
Pilates.
or a
I
handful?
hate Pilates.
Pilates, huh?
No, I'm just kidding. Um, well, I don't know. What is like something I've done for mental health that I try to do and I don't like?
Yeah, that's just not for you. I mean, anything could be for someone else, but just not.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't really think of anything right now that I've tried recently besides Pilates.
Do you want to know? Do you want to know something funny? Up
What?
until literally like 2 years ago, I thought Pilates was food.
What the heck kind of food did you think it was?
I thought it was like some Italian food, like Pilates. I'm like, what?
Yum! It
Yes,
sounds good.
yes,
I
I
wish it was an
know.
Italian food.
Doesn't it? Right? I was like, I
It's
thought
a
I was missing out on
crazy.
some like awesome Italian dessert, and then like my mom just looked at me and is like, "You have no idea what this is, do
Your
you?" And
mom
I
was
was
like,
like,
"You don't know.
"Know what I said
Don't
to her?"
ever
I go,
try
"No,
it. It's good."
I've never had it before," and she just started laughing at me. She's like, "You just
Wait,
have to
that's so
Google it. You just
funny.
have to Google it."
That's so funny.
Why do you like Pilates? I guess.
What?
Do you like to practice Pilating? Is that how you say it? I don't
No,
know.
I don't like Pilates.
Oh, you
I
don't?
hate it.
Why? Why not?
I don't know.
Too much?
It's too much. It's so boring. Not
Really?
a
Okay,
lot of
so
girlies do
as
Pilates
someone
though,
who
so
up
I don't want
until
to come for
recently thought
them.
it was what was that?
I said a lot of girlies like to do Pilates, so I don't want to come for them because it's I can see why people like it. It's just you have to use these big machines and you have to do all these like little movements and it's very hard. It's very hard. Don't get me wrong.
Interesting. I'm kind of
Yeah.
interested now. I might have to bring
Google a
some Italian
video.
dessert to a Pilates class and just go for it. Does it will that not
I feel
work?
like the dessert is like a pastry. It's like fluffy with like chocolate in it or like cream filling.
Oh, that's so embarrassing. I can't believe I actually said that out
Oh,
loud. But yes, up until a
it's
few
really
years
funny.
ago, I thought Pilates were dessert, and that's what's funny to me is like for as much as you think you can know about the world of mental health, there's just it's impossible to know. So again, I gave myself some grace on something as simple as the not dessert Pilates, um, but I think that's important to note across the board. Like I I feel like a lot of times people have their assumptions or they're predisposed to something and that's just like that's how it's going. There's no changing. I think again, personally maybe with the self-discovery I've done and just the therapy I've been to, I think that is I feel bad almost sometimes for people who exist in that way of life because there is so much more beyond your own thoughts and your own processes and just because it's not real to you doesn't mean it's not someone else's truth. And I think that's something that I had to learn a lot because, I mean, I grew up in a family that did okay, middle class, all boys. Like, I was not exposed to female problems in the slightest at all until college, really. I mean, I thought I knew like what they went through. Do you think that mental health is like blanketed across male, female, across genders, or do you think it is is unique to the individual and it really doesn't matter what gender you are?
Yeah. No, I definitely think that it's definitely unique to each individual. Um, I I don't know. I feel like there are also generalizations that you can like make about males versus females, but that's not obviously going to be true with every male and female because everybody's different and also like non-binary people, things like that. Um, everybody's different. But I feel like, you know, in general, women are more likely to like talk and open up, and men aren't. And I'm also just coming from a completely like, that's just such a generalization. And also, which is why it's very cool with what you're doing because you're a male and you're like out here having this conversation. Like, that's not necessarily the thing that people are doing. Um, from my experience, like you know, thinking of all the men I know, and that's not necessarily the case. People out here like talking about mental health. But obviously, I think it's very individualized, and like somebody's experience is like obviously everybody's experience in the world is different. Um, but yeah, I don't know. So I think it's cool with what you're doing because it's a cool perspective.
Yeah, thank you. I think those generalizations though are fair to make. I don't think they're just
Yeah,
out of left field. I think it's we hear it so often that sometimes we start to, I mean, believe it ourselves. But I don't think this is a believe moment. I think that it's fair to say like males don't talk about their mental health, females do,
yeah,
and then obviously I don't know enough non-binary people to say whether they do or not, but that's not my place to speak because that's not my truth. So I just think those generalizations are fair and they're not unwarranted, but that's part of what we're trying to do by having these discussions is to say like it doesn't make me any less of a man if that's how I want to exist, if I open up about my mental health, or if you chose not to. Like it doesn't necessarily make you less of who you are or who you want to be. And I think that and I always say this, it's not like you can't just point at someone and say it's their fault that this is happening. It's their or a group of people and just say like it's their fault that male identifying individuals don't talk about their mental health. It's a societal thing, right? Like it takes one person, and I shouldn't say one person because I just said it doesn't. It takes one ideology to push down another ideology in order for it to become a social construct like that. And I think it's when the lesser ideology pushes back a little bit that people's ears kind of perk up. And without getting like too philosophical, I think again that's what we're trying to do here is just say like just because you want to open up and talk about your mental health or admit that you need some help or ask for help, like maybe ask someone, do you notice something that I'm doing? Do I need help? Like, cause sometimes you don't know that you need help. Like it's not always right in front of you. But I think the more conversations that we have, to your point, the more and more widely accepted that it's going to be like, it doesn't matter. Like I said in the beginning, it
right.
shouldn't, I shouldn't have to thank you for saying, thank you for telling us you go to therapy. Like you should just be able
Yeah,
to tell me and I can
totally.
be like, oh, dope, me too. Like
Yeah,
on the contrast, and I appreciate your praise, but at some point the hope is it shouldn't be like, oh my God, it's so admirable that you're a male identifying human and you're talking about mental health. Like as
yeah,
much as that excites me and makes me proud now, I want it
right.
to just be normal, you know?
Right. But also to that point, right, like that's like the dream, right? And obviously like I love talking obviously to people like getting down into the weeds like what makes you the way you are, like what's going on. Tell me how you're doing. Um but I was going to ask you being you, what made you decide to, start this podcast, start this like really awesome discussion, especially being a male identifying person. It's very cool, but why are you doing it?
Me being me, that's a new one. I mean, it's not a new one. It's just the first time I've heard it. I think, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why I do it now, but why I started was probably a little more selfish than a lot of people would expect, and I'll explain that. I had a on-field anxiety attack in front of my team one practice, and it was like one of the most terrifying moments, but it was also one of the moments like I'm the most thankful for because I think I've been dealing with stress. Well, I have anxiety and OCD, and I say it all the time. If you live with me or if you know me, it's not like OCD where like there's not a speck of dust in my room and like everything has its place, but it's like it's more the compulsions. So it's more like repetitive habits uh, to the point of like touching the ceiling before I walk into a room or like the door or what's the most recent one that I've done? This one's funny. And I say it's funny because I understand my compulsions now and I'm trying to work them out. But for people who have really serious OCD, I get it's frustrating. I've been there. I flush the toilet, obviously, after I'm done using the restroom, and I have to make it out of the room, wash my hands and out of the room before it refills again. I know, really specific, but
It is
that is
specific.
something that I've been going through, and I've been to combat that. I've been purposefully standing in the room until it goes off to show myself that the world's not going to end just because I didn't leave the room before the water refilled. Like, as
Yeah,
bizarre as that sounds. But
I didn't know you
to
struggled
get
with
back,
that.
yeah, I mean, it's not something you can look at me and just be like, he has OCD. Like that. That's also what makes it so difficult to recognize mental health. But to get back to your point, I had the anxiety attack on field, and it was scary. But I appreciate it because I don't think I would have gotten the help that I needed if I didn't experience that in front of other people who look up to me. Because like you, I was the captain at the time, and my perception of what a good leader was kind of the generally accepted traits, like strong, confident, doesn't really show their emotions
Right,
unless it's
right,
like praise or like anger. Like you just have to be like authoritative,
right.
like really,
And like tough.
you just had to be someone, yeah, like you had to lead by example. You had to do all this stuff, right? That it obviously
Mm-hmm.
weighed me down.
Mm-hmm.
So got my vitals, whatever. I had never had one before. Like I've seen people go through them, but I've always been the one on the other side, like helping them through them. I've never had one. So that happened, and I went to therapy. Perfect introduction to therapy for me. I wish I had a deeper connection with that therapist. And again, it was tough because I'd never been before, but it was the perfect introduction to therapy. I have such a lovely connection with the therapist I'm currently seeing, but the first one, love her to death. If she's listening, she knows who she is. But I went to therapy, started doing all this, and I just was like, I only get to see this therapist for an hour, maybe once a week if the schedule allows. Um, Prime COVID at the time, so a lot of people were coming to the realization that isolation wasn't necessarily the best for them, so they went to therapy themselves. So it was tough to get in every week. So I was like, wait, I don't have soccer, which was an outlet for me, um, because the whole thing with COVID, like after that practice, everything shut down. But I don't have soccer. School was online. I'm only getting 1 hour of therapy a week. My physical fitness was outdoors, so that was nice. At least I was outdoors and running. But I was just like, how can I continue to help myself? And it was combine my degree of business with my newfound passion of mental health and
Cool.
just start a podcast. That's why it started.
Amazing. Okay, I like it.
So
It's a cool.
it was kind of selfishly to keep helping myself. And
It's
I told
awesome.
myself, I was like, oh, we helped one person along the way. It's cool. Like my friends were telling me, yeah, this is cool. Like it actually helped me, whatever. And I was like, oh, maybe selfishly that one person at the beginning was me. Like I couldn't tell you at the time why I started it. But again, I asked
Mm-hmm.
my therapist, why did I start this? And she helped me figure it out. But
I love that.
I'd say now it's just seeing the positivity that it spreads.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that sounds like really cliche and just like the
No, it's
world's
just the
sunshine
truth.
and rainbows, but like there's just been so many messages that I've received personally, that the Make Mental Accounts receive, that people have just came up and told me, that it's just like what you're doing matters, even if it doesn't feel like it. Because sometimes
Mm-hmm.
to me it's just like, oh, okay, I got another episode, cool. Like I'm really excited to learn about the individual, but sometimes when you
Yeah.
do it too much, it just is like, okay, it's a job, it's a job, it's a job. So I I get excited when the positivity goes beyond me into something
Yeah,
bigger.
it's bigger,
And I
yeah.
think again
It's
that
really cool.
comes back to athletics. Like yeah, I could score a goal in a game, but like winning the national championship is bigger than yourself, and it's that had to
Mm-hmm.
be like the number one moment of your career. Just that feeling of your best friends around you, and you're just like, oh my god. That's what the podcast is for me. It's just like,
Amazing.
yeah, I could come on, have a killer episode with you, but it's the positive impact that it has on the community that we're growing. That's why I keep
Mm-hmm.
doing it.
I
So
love it. That's so awesome.
to get back to you though, because that's why we're here. No one wants to listen to me. They listen to me every episode. They only get an hour of
Not
exclusive
true.
you.
They were like, we want to know.
Yeah, well, maybe. Um,
College can be a roller coaster, but Zant's got your back. First session, absolutely free. After that, just $25. Easy on the pocket, heavy on support. Stress, burnout, addiction, or trauma. Zant's expert coaches are here for you. Download the app, kick stress to the curb, and own your college journey. Your mental health, your way. Zant. Download and thrive today.
I know you go, like you said, you like to travel, you like to do yoga, meditation,
Mm-hmm.
not Pilates.
Mm,
You go on a lot of hikes.
yeah.
What does that do for your mental health? And I'm assuming you
I
block
love to
out
hike.
those trips, so it's like it's more you time. But like, what does just being around? You hinted at it a little bit with your trip to Nepal. What does being around nature
Mm-hmm.
do for you?
Well, listen, being around trees lowers your blood pressure. That's a fact. Um, but I don't know. Well, I started out my like adulthood, my like young adulthood in Vermont, which is like that's the biggest thing to do around there is hike. And I just feel like that's my happiest place in the world. Besides like being around like family and my friends that I love. All I like hiking makes me so happy in the world. Like it's just I love being in nature. I love experiencing like the noises, sometimes silence, like creeks, the trees, just like breathing in fresh air. And like I think as a kid I always loved being outside. Like grandma said to me a couple months ago, she was like, "You just love to be outside." And like, yes, if I can be outside, I will be out. Like the other day I had to spend the whole day inside because I was like doing stuff for work and I was like, I need to be outside. Like I can't not be outside, so I had to go on a walk at the end of the day. So yeah, I just think that for me, it's so important to be able to be connected to nature and like also just like I love to appreciate the earth. Not to sound like a hippie, but I don't know.
There's
I
nothing
just like
wrong with
love to
it.
appreciate. I don't know. I'm kind of a hippie. No, I just love to appreciate the earth. I just love nature and I love exploring. And so I don't know. It's just yeah, one of my passions. Makes me happy, lowers my blood
How
pressure.
much of being outside for you has to do with being present and lessening distractions, if at all?
Right. No, of course. No, I feel like that's one of the biggest things, probably. I mean, if you like dig down deep, that's such a good question. Because you're like not walking through your hike. I mean, sometimes you're gonna like take a picture, but you're not like walking through your hike being on your phone because you can't. You'll trip and fall. So I feel like
You have to be intent.
that is
You have to know that you want to get to the top of the mountain and not be distracted on the way.
yes, yes.
Essentially,
It's
I
like
think
the best
that's
way.
why I enjoy hiking. And I thought
Yeah.
of that again last weekend. I was hanging out with my girlfriend. We were doing some skiing.
Oh.
I am way better than she gives me credit for. I don't care what she says. Um, I mean, she downhill skied in high school and she was a ski instructor and she knows all the techniques. But like I got a small brain sometimes, and I'm just like, nope, I'm doing it my way. And
You're like, I'm
um,
going down the mountain.
I get down the hill and I only fall once. Like that's good enough for me.
So
So,
impressive.
but I was really trying to be as present as possible and intentional there. You know, one
Mm-hmm.
because I'm spending time with my girlfriend, but two because like I do spend a lot of my day inside now, whether it's for the podcast, whether it's at work, just in general. It's cold in upstate New York at this time of year, so I'm just inside. That I got to go outside and just all you can hear is the wind when you're going down the mountain. Like I said, I fall, so my girlfriend occasionally laughs at me, but that's also a beautiful sound. But it's just like it wasn't. I wasn't just like in front of a screen or inside or just like moseying about my day. Like
Yeah.
for you on your hikes, it's just like yeah, you can mosey about, but you have to know where you're going. You don't want to go off the
Mm-hmm.
trail. You don't
Mm-hmm.
want to. Not that it happens often, but you don't want to get an animal attack or something come across you and scare you. I
No, you
just think
don't.
it's so beautiful when you can spend time outside. And I say away from screens and stuff, but obviously the power to connect is awesome and community we can build through screens like we're doing now, but like too much of anything just tears the soul apart. So I think when you can get outside, and you don't have to be like some fitness guru. You just got to put on a pair of sneakers and walk around your neighborhood. And I think you'll start to see a difference within yourself. And I always used to feel like I had to run. That's a big problem for me is if I'm not doing something, I feel lazy. And
Yeah, I relate to
I
that.
started walking a little more just to kind of train myself to
Mm-hmm.
slow down. And I always
Yeah.
had to like get the best time, lift the
Mm-hmm.
heaviest weights, do this, like eat the right amount of calories, this, and this. That like, no, you can just slow down and you're missing so much if you don't. And I didn't realize that.
Yeah. No, I feel like I'm totally can relate to that because I'm always trying to, train and well, right now I actually am training for a half marathon, so that's a little bit different, but I'm always trying to
I
be
just
looking
started.
good. Really? Training for a half marathon?
Well, unofficially, I didn't give myself a date yet. I said by the end of the year, and it's kind of just been like floating up here. But
Wait, that's
I
fun.
ran I ran 3 miles, and then
Very
I'm doing
nice.
3 miles 3 days a week is my starting point, so I don't die because I haven't
I
ran like that in a
Yeah,
long
you got
time.
to start somewhere. I
But
am on a training schedule and my marathon is April 5th. My half marathon, not a marathon.
yeah, okay, so like that's also it leads me to a different point, I guess. Like you can still intentionally train for something while also being cognizant of the fact that that's not all that your life has to be about. Because I feel like in a world right now of extremes, it's weird to exist in the middle. And there's not, and I think a lot of people do, but we just don't know how. Like it's either all in on this thing, all in on this thing. All like you could train for your half marathon, but also go for a walk. Like
Yeah, exactly.
how do you balance that knowing that you have a goal in mind but you also have
Yeah.
other parts of you that you want to take care of?
Yeah, I feel like for me, I mean, I've always wanted to run a half marathon. It's like on my bucket list, which is awesome that I'm doing it. And like, I'm signed up, like, I'm definitely doing it. I'm doing it with my friend. Um, and I feel like I wanted to do it because I wanted to have that goal because like, especially with traveling around so much, I'm like, let me just like have something that I can focus on. I have a lot of things I focus on, but I'm like, let me just like have this goal so I can like have a structure. But however, obviously, yeah, you can't be like my training schedule. I'm like, what the heck? So the other day, literally on Monday, I was like, I told my friend who I call her my coach because she ran track at Duke and she wrote my training program. And I was like, I'm not running today. I was like, I don't want to. I'm going to yoga. And she was like, that's fine. That sounds great. And I'm like, I'm going to go to yoga and not going to run. And she's like, perfect. And I did. And it's like my favorite class ever on Monday nights. And I was so happy. And then I ran the next day and it was great. So I feel like obviously like we're out here training and like trying to stay active because like I have to stay active. Like that's just like part of who I am and I enjoy it. But I'm also like, if I don't want to do something one day, I'm not like you said, this is what I always say, like I'm giving myself grace. Like I did not run very well today. It was very hard, and I was so tired, but like I'm giving myself grace. I got out there, I did it, we're good. So I feel like you just have to like also just have to listen to your body, especially getting older. I'm not that old, but I'm
You're
21.
only what, like
18.
half a year older than me at this point.
Yeah. But I don't know. I just feel like yeah,
But
you have
you
to
know,
give yourself grace.
I think that again leads me to another good point. You're very good at bringing up good points, and you don't even know it. But I I think well, maybe you do know it. That wasn't really a fair assessment. But
I don't know.
I think it's important too. A lot of times we fall, and I say we as like an overgeneralized human population. We fall into like a trap of giving yourself grace. Sometimes is really hard, but sometimes it's a bad habit. And I think there's a lot of I've been there before of like I set a routine, I wanted to stick to it, and I didn't do it Monday. I didn't do it Tuesday. Okay, 2 days, not the end of the world. I didn't do it Wednesday. I didn't do it. And before you know it, I didn't do anything. How do you combat the trap of forgiveness? Because I think you kind of hinted at it, but I'm curious to know how you combat the. I guess for I say forgiveness, but it's really just laziness when it comes down to it, in my opinion.
Yeah. I feel like, I mean, I don't know. I feel like honestly, like training for this marathon or half marathon. I need to stop saying marathon. That's like so dramatic. It's not a marathon. It's only 13 miles. I feel like that is kind of like I'm like, okay, I need something that I can like count on that I'm going to do and hold myself accountable for. So like currently for me right now, it's that. Um, but I feel like I've been in different parts where I've like set myself little goals and everything. But like also I work night shift as a nurse, which honestly, not to open up a whole nother new can of worms, because we're really not to get into the weeds even more, but like that is honestly one of the biggest struggles. Like besides like obviously being a nurse and like all the other struggles is like balancing working from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. and like what I'm gonna like do for myself with myself, like what my body needs, like how am I gonna like, you know, manage life sometimes. Sometimes I'm just like I don't even know how I can like be awake and like be normal. And I feel like I like for me, I have like days where I'm like, this is my lazy night. Like the night before I go to work, so tonight actually, like I'll watch TV and I'll just let myself be so lazy. And then like I feel like that's like my night a week. I mean, that sounds like
That's
really
your
structured.
that's your popcorn and Netflix.
No, literally, I'm going over to my friend's house after this, and we're gonna have popcorn and watch The Bachelor, which is
Oh
terrible
my God.
TV.
Wait, is that on Thursdays?
No, it's on not it. It's just like we watched on Hulu
Okay.
because we don't have live
Well,
TV.
I need you to report back to me because that's what me and my girlfriend watch, and I finished both episode 1 and episode 2, and I want to know about one specific girl that we could talk about after. We're not going to turn this into a bachelor rant. And
Yeah,
yes,
no,
I've
because
gotten shit
but
on
here's
for
the
this
thing.
before. So,
Wait, but I also like I. It's like so funny to me. I like don't keep up that good, but it's just like fun to like hang out with. Yeah, I love it.
yeah,
That's
but
but
again,
yeah, that's
that goes back to knowing yourself. So we don't get
yeah,
off on a Joey
crazy
tangent if you're
tangent.
watching The Bachelor right now. Um, I just I think you know that about yourself, right? You know that you're allowed to give yourself 1, 2, maybe 3 lazy days a week and still hit your milestone. I like to call them goals and milestones. I know a lot of people like to call them goals, but like your milestone is going to be this half marathon. Your goal is being physically active on the way to the marathon, and what that looks like to you is it could be running, lazy, running, lazy. Like you're gonna have those mini goals in there, but you can't hit all of those physical goals and mental goals if you don't give yourself that time to recover, like you said. And if you listen to your body and you listen to what it's telling you, this is that connection between physical and mental health. Like you knew you for some reason your body was telling you I cannot run today, but your mind was telling you that I cannot be inactive in order to reach my milestone. So you just adjusted the activity. You didn't just sit down and say, "Oh, I'm gonna watch The Bachelor today when I'm supposed to do that Thursday." Like, no, you still got yourself in the habit of getting out of the house, or maybe in the house you did yoga, but moving your body. I think that's important too. Is just because you set yourself, and again, I call them goals, that mini goal doesn't mean you can't adjust what that goal looks like on the way. But again, that goes with a lot of practice and a lot of knowing yourself, and those goals can
Hmm.
change by the second, really. So
Yeah, like you, I feel like you always have to be like changing and reassessing, and like this week I'm super tired, and like also being a woman, sometimes with like your like hormonal cycles, like you have to kind of be like, okay, this week I'm really tired. Last week I was so energetic. Like, why can't I run as good as I did last week? Or like, why am I dragging at work? I need like an extra cup of coffee. So I feel like yeah, I feel like my biggest thing is always just like checking in with myself, which I also do through journaling. Like, what am I feeling? How am I doing? I, like, I'm gonna run if I can run, or like whatever I have to do that day. But like, I'm gonna also take a break. Or like also for me, yoga is like a mental health reset completely. And like that's like my one of the honestly probably right now in my life the biggest aid in my positive mental health is like doing yoga. Because it's like so mentally it's like a mental health candy.
I like that. And I think that's interesting because you're not the first person to tell me that. I met actually one of our old guests, Mike Voitis, a Youngstown football player, big, like big football guy. And he does like hot yoga every Sunday or something. And he said it's like the best thing he's ever done. And like I laughed out loud because not because he does it, but because that's the last thing I expected him to say when he takes care of his mental health. But like he's got me really curious and interested in not necessarily hot yoga, but just yoga in general. I've ran a few sessions as the assistant coach of the women's program. I've ran a few sessions, but it's more them just chuckling at how like how clumsy I am. But like that also has its own therapy that I can just get up there, do my best, embarrass myself. Like, so it doesn't matter if you're good at it. It doesn't matter if you're bad at it. If you want to try
No.
it, just try it. Because like you said,
Yeah.
mental health candy. I've never heard that before. I'm going to start using that. What's your
Yes,
mental
that's
health
my
candy?
that exactly. What's your mental health candy? Yoga is mine. Yoga is also like an extremely ancient practice used by like,
Yeah.
you know, people from like thousand like BC. Like I when I was in Nepal, I sat in a cave that was like created in like 10 AD or something. Like so like used for meditation. So I mean yoga is like an
Was it like just pitch
incredible.
black?
It was like I'll show you a picture. It was like it was cool. No, it wasn't black. It was like
Because
a
I know,
it wasn't it was a shallow cave
okay, I know there's a lot of
with a
people,
shrine.
and the only person I could think of that comes to mind right now, because my brother Jake loves the Green Bay Packers, for those who don't know, is Aaron Rodgers. And I know he's not with the Packers right now, but Aaron Rodgers went to like some retreat and it was just like pitch black and he was like floating in water and he just stayed there for, I honestly don't know the amount of time, but that was like his meditation. And he just like came out refreshed. Like he went in and he just came out. I mean, he's always been mildly relaxed, like relatively relaxed, but he just came out, he said, with so much more clarity. He did it when he tore his Achilles and he came back in like record time. So like there is something to be said about peace.
Yes, and meditate. Yeah, meditation.
Yeah.
Meditation is
Did you find the cave?
crazy. Also hard. What? Oh, you want the picture right
Did you
now?
find the cave?
The picture?
Well, I mean, if you have it, we can't just tell the people about it and not show
Oh, okay. Wait, I wasn't looking. I didn't know I was supposed to be look. I will find it so quick. No,
them.
meditation is crazy. It's also very hard.
Was it guided
That's my hot
meditation
take.
or were you
I
on your
did,
own?
I did, no, I did some, like, oh, I was in Nepal for 2 weeks and we did like some guided meditation, guided yoga, and then also I did some on my own. Like, I've always been kind of into meditation and like Buddhism. Um, but yeah, we did a lot of
Can I
guided
ask you something
meditation.
extreme?
Sure.
Do you
Yes.
turn on music, put on like a candle? Do you hum?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like there's so many misconceptions that I don't necessarily know everything about meditation. I tried it once, but
Yeah.
again, it was my Pilates, if you will. It's not for me. I prefer yoga, but they're sort of similar. What do
No,
you
I mean,
do in
meditation and
meditation?
yoga. Yeah. I mean, meditation and yoga are like, they are kind of, they're very much so intertwined because like they're both originating from similar like places back, whatever. I don't know the history, but um, I have meditated in many different ways. I've done guided meditation where somebody's talking. I've done like that can also include like breath work, which is like incredibly powerful. I've done like sound baths where they'll like, like make sound with like bowls, like Tibetan bowls or like gongs and stuff. I'm doing one next Tuesday, I think. Um, but there's stuff like that. But I've also done just like internal meditation and like you can either like there's different methods. Like you can either like clear like sometimes I'll just try to like clear my brain, like have literally zero thoughts in my brain, which is obviously so impossible to do. So there's that what you can practice, or you can also practice like body scanning, which I feel like is one of the easiest ways to do meditation on your own, where you just like start from like the crown of your head and like scan your whole body and like feel each like limb, each like finger, like try to feel your like blood rushing through your body. Like that is another way you can do it. But also, I don't know, I think, and you can also use like apps. Like I used to use the Calm app, and that would be like guided meditation that I loved. I haven't used that in a while. It's kind of expensive, but there's probably guided meditations like everywhere. But I don't know,
Yeah, and
meditation
I
is
guess
kind of
I guess
crazy.
I guess I have done meditation. I didn't think about it. I
Yeah, you probably
When I was
have.
super stressful, one of the techniques that my therapist taught me, sneaky now that I think about it, she didn't tell me it was meditation. She tricked me.
Sneaky
Holy
girl.
crap. Because I told her I wasn't a fan of meditation. Wow.
Yeah, so she's
She
like, hey,
got
try
me.
this.
Anyways, I'll get to the point. She told me to lay in bed and tense up all my muscles and then slowly from the feet upward, release the tension. So release it into your calves and then your thighs, hamstrings, glutes, all the way up. I guess that in itself is a form of meditation. Like I said, a lot of us have this conception of meditation of like smoke and fire and like humming and
No.
like
Yeah.
it doesn't
Which it
have to
can
be.
be.
Not that that's bad.
No.
Not that that's bad. But
No.
it can be as simple as focusing on your breath. That's a simple form of
Yes.
meditation. And I
That's
guess I
the
didn't.
first step.
I mean, I
That's
did
totally
know.
the
I
first
did
step.
know that, but
Mm-hmm.
I just never put it together. I'm gonna have a chat
Yeah.
with my old therapist here and see how she tricked me into that.
Yeah. No, meditate. I mean, honestly, literally the first step of meditation, the first thing you can do is like focusing on your breath. And that's also in yoga too.
It is. So
And like,
maybe
again,
maybe I'm gonna eat my words. Maybe it's not.
Yeah,
my
you
Pilates.
might.
Maybe
You might have to dabble. You have to find a nice
No,
little yoga studio.
I guess I do have parts of the meditation down. I just don't have the full practice, if you will.
Yeah.
But I will try. Did we
And
ever find the cave?
disclaimer.
Or no? This is what I'm curious of. But go ahead. Sorry.
Okay.
So, disclaim first, and then we'll see the cave.
No, I just wanted to say, I sent you the pictures. Disclaimer, I don't want to be claiming to know that much and be this expert on like yoga and meditation. That's just my own personal experience.
Oh, wow.
Is it cool?
Oh, that's actually really neat.
Yeah, right?
Oh, okay. So I
They're
see.
like
I see the type
they're
of
not
cave
like
now.
yeah, they're caves, but they're like
again.
they
This
made
is
them.
this is my brain going to the extreme. I thought like you shined a flashlight and there's just 100 bats above you and the cave could collapse.
No, they're like shrines. They're like Buddhist shrines.
Yeah,
or
they're
Hindu
kind of like
Buddhist.
igloo size.
Totally igloo vibes.
Yeah, so I was thinking like big like cenotes like you'd find in Mexico, like down, dark.
No, it was like on the side of a mountain. And it was next to like a part of the grounds of like one of the biggest Hindu temples in Kathmandu, which is the capital of Nepal.
That is so cool. I'm gonna have to go on one of these trips with you now. I need a little bit more.
Yeah.
I need to.
You want to go to
expand my
Guatemala?
knowledge. We need to go to Italy. I got to expand my knowledge on Italian desserts, apparently.
Yeah, you do. Well, I'm going to Guatemala in April. If you want to come, we're doing a lot of yoga, camping, hiking.
Yeah, geography was also not my strong suit. I got to start traveling. That's
Central
going to be on
America.
my bucket list. Yeah, pretty much up and down the East Coast. That's me.
There you go.
But I kind of want to open the floor to you for anything else you might want to just chat about really quick before we round out the episode. It's been such a pleasure to chat with you and just share this space and be so intentional and learn some things that I didn't necessarily know about you. And I mean, I knew you traveled. I just didn't know Nepal was your most recent one, and all about your therapy. And now we have The Bachelor. If you watch The Bachelor in Paradise, I got that going on too. So.
Oh no, I'm not good at keeping up with stuff though,
hooked.
so you can't hold me to it.
She has me hooked.
You can't hold me to anything because like I'll watch it and then I won't watch it for 3 weeks. Like I'm not good at keeping up with
That's okay.
TV
We
shows.
don't like commercials, so we'll just tape them and then watch them at the same time.
Oh yeah, we have Hulu. But yeah, I think this has been so fun. It's been such a fun conversation. I didn't know the grounds we were going to cover. I love the way that we talked about like yoga and meditation. That's so fun.
Yeah, I think we went from caves in Nepal to Pilates to hiking to we talked about grandma. Love grandma. She said to let her know when this episode came out, so we'll give her a quick little shout out. We love you, grandma.
Okay, shout out grandma and grandpa.
And grandpa. Grandpa, if you're listening, I just don't know if you could listen to my voice this long. So if you've made it this far, congratulations, grandpa.
Well, he's probably listening for me.
Now I hope he listens because he'll have something to tell me about that. So
shout
I'm
out
actually
grandpa,
going
the funniest
up there.
guy.
I'm going up there to stay overnight tomorrow. And I always know they're going to say yes. So I don't even ask for permission to come anymore. I just tell them I'm giving them warnings. And grandpa says, about what time? And I tell him, he's like, all right, I'll make sure the door's locked.
Wait, I'll be there in April. That's so funny. Grandpa's the funniest guy ever.
And I honestly, I knew he was funny, but I started to figure it out more in like the last couple of years once I could actually understand his humor. But
no, he's like getting funnier. Shout out to our grandma and grandpa. We love them so much.
Oh boy, I'm gonna be
Uh,
curious as to what he has to tell me after this. He's probably gonna say that you're right. I only listen because Bryn. I hear you enough, Caleb. And that's a horrible representation of Grandpa. But
yeah.
um, okay, well, I want to
Wait, I
ask you
know
two
that's
final
so funny.
questions to round out
Okay.
the episode. I do this with a bunch
Okay.
of the guests. The first one
Okay.
is, what is a quote or a motto that you're living by right now?
My motto for life has been for many years, like 5 years, is live your truth, is my life motto.
I like that. And we're going to leave it mysterious so people can figure out what that means to them. The
I feel like it's
second
pretty,
question,
just live your truth.
yeah, I mean, it's 3 words. So if you're like me, you always try and unpack it more, but I'm going to practice not doing that right now. I'm going to move on to the last question here. Who is one person aside from your immediate family that you would like to send a hug if they're listening to this episode and just know that they're loved?
Wait, I feel like that's a really good question.
Well, when it's
Um,
okay, I always like to take out family because like you can always give your mom a hug, your dad a hug, like your little brothers, whatever. But like when you take that aside, you're really forced to think of like who needs a hug right now.
I'm gonna send a hug to my cousin Jake, your brother.
Ha! He's actually the one who told me to get you on the episode. That is perfect. That is
I know,
awesome.
I talked to him yesterday. I talked to him on the phone yesterday, so he gets the hug.
There you go, Jake. He might be in the room over, so he probably just heard me scream, but
Did you hear that?
he'll he'll find
Jake, you're
out
getting
why.
a hug. Cute.
Well,
I
I'm
like it.
sure he would send one back, but this has been fun. Thank you so much for coming on, sharing your knowledge, your insight. And I think it's cool too. We've had a lot of, and again, this is going to sound mean, but it's not meant to be mean. We've had a lot of like extremely successful people within their industry come on, and because me and you are still at the
Yeah,
beginning of our journey, we don't have that title yet.
totally.
But it's always cool to see like it doesn't matter if you are the
No,
CEO of a company, if you're just starting out, if you're division one, two, three, whatever lens you are coming or looking through, like you still have a story. Your story still matters, and as Bryn told us, like you still need to live your truth. So it's been so fun to just share this space with you. I can't wait to hear. I'm not going to spoil it, but I need to ask you a question, so you need to text me when you're done with The Bachelor. But thank you
okay.
for
I
listening in,
will.
everybody. And once again, Bryn, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.